This power band is more versatile than you might think. And while we've been using it for things like the banded pull-aparts and the side steps, it's also an amazing tool for your overall mobility. And so I want to show you a few of my favorite ways to use the band to improve your hip mobility. Now, before we get started, keep in mind that this works best when the band is directly on skin or when it's on a pair of pants that has a little bit of texture to it. So if you're using or if you're wearing something like a nylon basketball short, really slick material, you might not get the best results. So just a heads up on that. Now, before we get started, I like to take whatever I'm wearing and kind of pull it up a little bit because you're going to want a little bit extra material in the crotch, and this will make sense in a minute. But what we're going to do is we're going to take this band and we're going to get it very high up into the crotch area near the hip socket as best you can. And we're going to start by wrapping it around and pulling some tension on the band. And as we wrap around, we're going to overlap the band as we go down towards the knee. Now, if your tension is too loose on the band, you're going to find that it's just going to slip all over the place when you're doing these exercises. If it's too tight, you're going to find that you're uncomfortable and you're not going to be able to do the exercises, period. Once you get to the end, where there's maybe a foot and a half left, keep your hand in the band, pull it around, tuck it under, so now it's not going to go anywhere. Now it's stuck on your leg. What we're going to do is we're first going to just stand up and squeeze your butt. So standing up, squeezing your butt, you're going to find that there's a lot of tension going on under the band. That's okay. And what I'm going to focus on here for this first part, just letting my leg adapt to this, is my toes are pointed at 12 o'clock, my chest is pointed at 12 o'clock, and I'm going to squeeze my leg and let the tissues just start to adapt. After 5, 10, 15 seconds of squeezing, relax. My toes stay facing 12 o'clock, but my chest is going to turn, in this case, to 1 o'clock because it's on my right leg. And I'm going to squeeze again. Hold, relax, turn my chest to 2 o'clock. Squeeze, hold, breathe, continue. Now, depending on your hip mobility, you might not be able to go farther than that, but just go wherever you can. If you can get your chest to 3 o'clock, amazing. But my feet have stayed the same. They've been planted in the ground. I'm not letting them open. Now, once I've been able to turn as far as I can and I'm squeezing my leg, the next step is to start to push backwards, what we call flossing. I'm going to push back, and then I'm going to squeeze my butt as I come forward. I'm going to relax my butt and push back and twist into it, and then squeeze my butt as I come forward. Now, your leg can stay straight or it can stay bent. They both have their pros and cons, so feel around with what's right for you. We're going back, we're coming forward and squeezing. We're pushing back, feeling a stretch on the back side of my leg, and then I come forward and squeeze, feeling the inside and the front start to open. And we can continue this flossing pattern for 30 seconds, a minute, minute and a half, 2 minutes, whatever your body will allow you to do. Then we can start moving into things like squatting. Air squat, back up, just go however deep you can go, don't try to force it. My feet are staying forward. If they need to flare out a little bit, by all means, that's okay. And then I can start doing things like my hip hinge. All these movements that we've been working without the band, we can do with the band just to speed up some of that process. Now, full disclosure, your foot may start to go pale. It may start to tingle a little bit. All of this is okay. If it starts feeling like prickles, or if you feel a numbness down your leg, by all means take it off. But your leg can typically handle a little bit of time under that compression, and it is normal to feel that way. Now, one of my favorite things to do here involves a chair. And we're going to put our leg up onto a chair, and we're just going to try to open the hip and then close the hip. Open the hip and close the hip. Now, I only want you to open and close this hip as much as your hip will allow. What I mean by that is sometimes we take our knee, and our knee tries to go really far, but our hip won't like that. And if that's the case, stop. If you can only get this far, don't try to force it this far, right? Because the idea is that the hip is what's moving open and closed, not that the knee is wobbling, and that could put a lot of stress on your knee, and we don't want to have stress on our knee. So we're opening and closing. My chest is up. This is one form of this exercise. Or my chest comes down That's another form, and there's pros and cons to both of them. Another technique here is with my leg up on the chair, I can take my arm, so right leg, right arm, I hook my hand onto my leg, I block my leg out, and now my leg and my arm are going to push against each other. My arm pushes into my leg pushes into my arm, and I take this hip and I'm trying to pop it out, kind of like you're trying to snap a chicken bone, but please don't snap it. Right? So listen to your body. You're going to feel a stretch in the front of the hips, squeeze your butt, push the leg into the arm into the leg, try to get some stretch going through here. Finally, to get to the front of the hip, we can do things like our Samson lunge, which we do in part of the power warm-up every day, trying to get the front of the hip open. And for the more advanced, adventurous versions, we can get onto the ground, prop our leg up onto something like a chair, bring our other leg out in front of us, and then keeping our chest low, simply try to open that hip. Again, what we call flossing, forward and backward, trying to get the front of the hip open. When we're doing this, we want to make very sure that our back is not arching. We want our back to stay flat. And for the very advanced of you out there, we can bring our chest up and again floss through this hip, getting a stretch in the front of the leg. But again, only go to this part if your back will not arch and overextend. If you arch and overextend your back, your hip's not doing anything. So it's better to be down here and have your hip do the work. Again, this is a very advanced movement. I don't recommend trying it unless you have really good hips. And when you get to that point, we can add things like twisting and reaching up and over. But please listen to your body. It knows what's right and what's not. When you're all done, we take that excess that we tucked under when we started, we pop it out, we take the band off. You're going to feel a little rush of blood back into your leg. It's going to feel amazing. Your hip mobility, your pelvic tilt, your posture is going to be much improved. And then you can do the other side. If you feel like you need more time on one leg, do the other side and come back to it. Don't just work one leg after one leg after one leg. You're going to want some time for the blood to flush back down to the leg. So just keep switching back and forth. And listen to your body because it's going to know how long you can spend on each leg before you need to switch it up. And then listen to your body in terms of how far you can perform each one of these exercises. Never try to exceed what you can do. Remember the rule of thumb with power stretching. Expose the joint and the tissues to as far as it can go comfortably. Contract, breathe, relax, go a little bit farther. And as long as you follow that pattern, you'll see an increase of range of motion right away. And that is a great way to get some extra mileage out of your power band.